Serpent Temple. This week we are going to be reviewing 3 albums. The first album is going to be by Death. It is the Symbolic album released in 1995. The second album is going to be Primordial's Exile Amongst the Ruins, released in 2018. And the third is going to be Lingua Ignota's Not album, released in 2021, called Agnus Dei. So, Floyd, take it away.
Can I just say, do you know, I just remembered just then, I just remembered how fucked up it was. That that guy that turned his uncle's skeleton into a guitar.
Oh my god, I hate that guy.
Yeah, that's like the worst thing ever.
I'd be so disappointed in my family if they did that to me.
That story is fucking living rent-free in my head. And I just can't get it out.
He literally, like, this, if people don't know, his uncle donated his body to a medical centre. They had no use for the skeleton, I believe, so they gave it back to this guy. He takes the rib cage and the spine and turns it into a guitar, and he can't even play it properly because the ribs are like enclosing the string. Like, why would you just take a few ribs off, do Marilyn Manson?
Or just make a xylophone or a glockenspiel.
Oh, the xylophone would be so much better.
More natural thing to do with a skeleton, I think.
It'd be funny if his uncle was called Miles. He could call it a milophone. I'm so sorry. Speaking of death.
Yeah, that was a good segue.
Yeah.
I'm quite interested to hear what you've got to say, because I could go on for years about Death.
I mean, I love Death. I only got into them like a few years ago. I never, when I got into death metal, I kind of got into like 2000s death metal post Chuck dying, so I never really discovered them properly until I was much older. And like, they're one of those bands where, I mean, I was one of their top listeners on Spotify.
Yeah.
But I don't consider myself like knowledgeable about them, so this was like a really cool way of like starting to kind of know more about this amazing band. They're just fucking incredible. They're one of my favourite bands for sure. I saw a version of them play, obviously without Chuck, at Hellfest.
Oh, was that DTA?
Yeah, that's the one. And like, oh my god, they were one of the best live bands I've seen. So, like, they had fretless bass, and it was just, all of them were so virtuosic. The entire tent was just full of people. Like this, you know how people come onto the side of the stage?
Yeah.
They had like 100 people on the side of the stage. Like, so many people at the festival were just like in awe. Yeah. Even without Chuck, of seeing this band play those songs, and it was they're just joyous. It's like truly incredible music. The guitar work is just sick. Like the way they do the intervals, like we were talking about it earlier, like maybe I think they're fifths or something. I'm not a music theory person, but the way the guitars are layered, they create this like sound that Carcass use a lot and is used in a lot of death metal, where it just sounds so beautifully layered and harmonized, and you just get this like really sharp, like brutal sound that's like also really melodic and beautiful. They do that really well. They just write the most incredible riffs. Yeah.
It's, what year did you see them? That had been about 2015?
I think so, yeah.
Because that's, because I'm pretty sure they played Bloodstock that year.
I think it was 2015.
So they had Steve DiGiorgio on bass, because he was one of the ones that, like, I think one of the first people to ever bring, like, a fretless bass to the metal, like, sphere.
Is that so?
That was cool. I could, for the life of me, I cannot remember the guy who was playing guitar and vocals, but my god, he actually sounded like Chuck.
They sounded literally like they do on record. It was really impressive, and like, I love Chuck's vocals. Like, I didn't realize until you guys told me earlier, but Chuck didn't think he was a good vocalist, which blows my mind, because his vocals are so good. They're clear. You can understand what he's saying really easily, and like they add this, like, the way he distorts it. It's not overly distorted. There's something really beautiful about how it contrasts with a lot melodic music.
I think the interesting thing about the vocals is, when you listen to the first 2 albums, which are a lot more kind of death metal orientated, it had more of that kind of harsh guttural and far less enunciation than that was kind of more prominent in the death metal scene at that time.
For sure.
Yeah, where like, I feel like even Symbolic might have even been one of the first albums we started to enunciate the words a bit more, and so his general approach was just a bit clearer, and you can actually discern a lot of what he was saying. And I think, you know, it was just such a good natural step, because for me, in my opinion, I think Death are one of the bands that, they're a very good gateway band for people to get into death metal.
100%.
Because I feel like when they got to the point they were at with Symbolic, they had reached like a status where I think they had quite a wide appeal in the metal sphere. Like, it's just like we were saying, with whether it be with the riffs or the vocals and just the composition of the music. Like, there's, and you're gonna hate me for saying this, but like, there's even some of it that's like reminiscent of Pantera at times. Like, you know, it just has that groove and like structure to it, and it's like, you know, and you could totally see how that kind of catapulted them into the sort of the legendary status that they will always maintain. Like,
definitely.
And it's, obviously it's not a good thing that he's died by any stretch of the imagination, but if there's a silver lining you could kind of take away from it, it's the fact that like that legacy can never be tarnished.
Absolutely.
Like, those 7 albums are like unfuckable. Like, they're all so good in their own rights.
I think you mean unfuckable.
What did I say? Unfuckable. Yeah. I'm sure someone could fuck a desk if they really wanted to, so or a vinyl.
It's really, like, a really dangerous fuck.
Yeah.
Saying.
Yeah, that's some human centipede shit right there.
It's put my teeth on edge thinking about it. I'm sure someone's done it though.
Well, I'll tell you what it's reminded me of, which someone has done. There's a fan of Dying Fetus, one of the most unfortunately named bands, because it's funny because they decided to write about politics and like the shit happening in Iraq. So like, yeah, you're never going to get taken seriously with a name like Dying Fetus. But I love them. I think they're a great band. And one of their fans died and wanted his ashes to be, I believe this was the story, to be made into a vinyl.
Oh wow!
So, and he got made into like a special like pressed version of one of the Dying Fetus records.
What would you want your ashes to be pressed into? Which album?
Well, I definitely want to be cremated.
Yeah.
So, I think just fuck, I don't know. I don't give a fuck. Just.
Is this like the
I'll be
most
dead.
stupid, funny album you could think of?
Oh, which album I want to be pressed into? Oh god, I don't know. Maybe something like Spandau Ballet. Just throw a bit of a spanner in the works. I actually really like Spandau Ballet.
I've never listened to them.
Good, you know the song Gold though, right?
Maybe.
I'm not going to sing it because I'm going to embarrass myself.
We can edit it out. Maybe afterwards you can play it.
But I'll play some Spandau Ballet afterwards.
Yeah, they just have one of those band names where I feel like it's going to sound like The Cure or like a band like kind of music I don't listen to.
God, it's like a new wave of pop sort of bands. They're really kind of, but it's good shit.
Synth? Is it like one of those?
Oh, and that's synth heavy as well.
Yeah, I knew it. I could just tell from the name. I was like, yeah, that's why I've never gotten in them. I'll give it, if it's one of your Ashes vinyl choices, I'll give it a listen to in honour of your future potential, probably not going to happen choice.
I saw a Spandau Ballet t-shirt in a charity shop once, and I was like, I'm totally going to buy this and wear it to like fucking Damnation or something. It's just people do like a double take. So is that a Spandau Ballet shirt? Yeah, it is, motherfucker.
I feel like those people would give you props for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of bands like that.
Well, better that than a Goatmoon shirt, I suppose.
It's definitely an improvement. Not that you have any.
Nope.
You said that like you have a whole wardrobe full of them.
Nope, I do not. But no, going back to Symbolic, is there any particular tracks on the album that you enjoy more than others?
My favourite death track is Crystal Mountain. And it's
a great track.
On the album. It's just so catchy, like it's, I don't know, I feel like some parts of it remind me of like how Mastodon did the early stuff, like the energy on the drums. And like on one of the songs, I can't remember which, but like this is like a really strange thing to say about some music, but the guitars remind me of King Diamond vocals.
Yeah.
Like the way they're structured and how they sound, I was just like, this feels like King Diamond singing.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
I think it was Individual Thought Patterns, they actually had Andy LaRocque, who was the guitarist for King Diamond.
No way, that's really
some
cool.
guitar parts, yeah, he was a session musician for that album.
That's amazing, they have amazing guitars. So.
But that brings up an interesting point, because one of the things I love in Death, and you kind of hear it in the last track, Perennial Quest, and it's probably one of the most famous instrumentals in history, Voice of the Soul.
Oh, it's
from
so
Sound
catchy.
of Perseverance. Like the guitars scream.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not something, it's done in a way that it sounds like, because you hear like Dimebag used a lot of, I keep referencing Pantera for some reason, but they used like a lot of pinch harmonics and a lot of harmonics that sounded like the guitar was speaking, but the way he does it in Voice of the Soul, and you hear a bit of it at the end of Perennial Quest in the outro, it's just so human. Like it does, like I said, it is reminiscent of like a human's voice.
It is really, like, you can sing a lot of the riffs and you can sing those instrumentals. I think Bill Steer is definitely my guitarist, inspired by this choice as opposed to...
I mean, that man is just, the riffs he's created is responsible for, I might have mentioned this before, but like Carcass don't get enough props for like how much influence they've been on the scene. Like even whether it be through fucking gore grind or mellow death, like they've done so much to so many different subgenres.
I think we're so lucky that we've got Black Sabbath and Carcass and bands like Electric Wizard in this country. Like we have a lot of bands that have shaped genres, like more than one for sure.
Yeah. Judas Priest as well.
Of course, yeah. I mean, there's even more. Like there's like prog bands and stuff, and like we're just so lucky.
And I suppose Saxon as well. I like a bit of Saxon.
Good old bit of Zeppelin as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, it's crazy to think that the small islands produce so much great music.
Yeah, I wonder what it is. We've just got some weird, like, chemical...
I reckon we just colonised the world and just took
stole all their stuff!
Yeah. And just melded it into one perfectly balanced musical fucking revolution.
Melting pot, I think.
But I was going back to Crystal Mountain. Do you know what the song's about?
No, what it's about?
So, I think I was reading an article. It was like 10 things you didn't know about the Symbolic album.
Oh.
And apparently it was about, he had these overzealous, like, evangelical neighbours.
I thought there was a lot of, like, some anti-Christian stuff in here.
Yeah. Like, I think, in particular, it's the whole aspect of sort of evangelism and how corporate churches have become in certain segments of that faith. And it's just so obvious as well that it's just purely just to fucking take advantage of people's faith, you know. But yeah, he had these neighbours in particular that used to kind of look down on him and sneer at him because he had long hair and stuff. And they were like overzealous Christians, and he was just like, well, fuck it, you know. I think Crystal Mountain is a reference to their sort of, you know, their mountain
Sinai.
of faith, which is actually, you know, nothing but a hollow landscape, really.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I like that idea. I was reading the lyrics to Symbolic, and I was wondering, I don't know if this is the case, but I was reading, like, it's about, like, precious memories and, like, being, it seems really vulnerable and open and like quite emotional, and I wondered if it was about his brother dying. So his brother died.
Yeah.
Like a few years. I don't know if it was before they formed or before the album, but like the lyrics are really emotional and are about like holding on to what's around you and realizing that one day what's happening right now could be a precious memory.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like I was wondering if that was like about like a death or something like that.
I think you're very, very close to the mark. Apparently, from what I've read, Symbolic is basically about the loss of innocence.
Oh yes, I did get that.
As a child, and you know, everybody's got that youthful wonder which kind of fades, and it always fades at a point where you don't realise it's gone.
Yeah.
It's only in retrospect, and I think a lot of the lyrics in the Symbolic track are kind of in reference to you know, just how wondrous a time was before you realised that, you know, that the world can be a pretty cruel and unrelenting place. But yeah, no doubt that was probably shaped by the loss of his brother, because I think he was quite young when his brother died.
Yeah.
Because he was given, I know when he was given a guitar to help deal with the grief of losing his brother.
Oh wow, that's so
when he was
sad.
young. And I've got, I mean, like, fuck, I mean, how tough those parents, you know, to lose a child so young, because the brother was 16 when he died.
Yeah.
And obviously Chuck died when he was 34. So,
God, that's so
I mean, that's a lot of grief for parents to have to deal with and go through.
Yeah.
One of my favourite, on a more positive note, one of my favourite lyrical inspirations for one of the tracks is the track Sacred Serenity. Do you know what that's about?
What is it about?
It's about cats and dogs.
No way!
Yeah.
Is it about how cats are serene? Cats are serene and dogs are, I don't know, what's it about?
It's literally just about his love for cats and dogs.
That is so cute!
And just about how they've just got, you know, just undying affection, and they just look at a world from such an innocent and pure perspective that humans can never really attain.
I love Death even more. That makes me so happy. Like, all my favourite bands, well, most of them, like Queen, I know they have, like, what's-his-face wrote a song called Delilah about how much he loves his cats.
Yeah.
And, like, in the song, he just, like, he literally meows in the song, but it actually, it's such a good song. Check out Delilah, it's beautiful.
If you want to cry about a song that's about an animal dying, there's a band, A Silver Mount Zion.
Yeah.
It's a side project of Godspeed You Black Emperor, and they wrote an entire album. It's got a really long title, I can't remember it, but the whole album, or these parts of the album, are about his dog dying.
Oh no!
And there's one track called like Surrounded by 9 Angels by Your Bedside, or something like that. I'll have to get the correct titles at some point and I'll send it to you, but it's really fucking sad.
I'm literally tearing up thinking about it. That makes me so sad. Oh my god.
But, no, for what I know, I think Chuck was was definitely quite a big animal lover. I saw an interview of him once and he was wearing like a t-shirt it was like Cats Are Metal or something like that. Or
that
like
is
fucking,
awesome.
But yeah, he just seemed like such a good fucking dude. Like,
yeah.
And it's just, I think that's the thing that just comes across every time I've seen him in interviews. And I think it comes across in his music. Because one of the things about Death, which I really liked, is, and this is quite prominent on the Symbolic album. So obviously the first two albums they did was very, traditional death metal. It was one of the first bands to kind of pioneer that style. It was a lot of gore lyrics, about zombies and shit like that. And whereas he decided to take a far more personal and introspective approach as it progressed, and it kind of, I think, opened people's mind into showing that death metal could be something more than just a one-trick pony, which was just something that's just quite soulless really, because a lot of it is just inspired by like the giallo horror scene in Italy. It's a lot of it's tongue-in-cheek. Obviously there's not a lot of death metal bands that are actually serious about what they're singing about, and it's pretty like corny. But I feel like Death were one of the first bands to kind of take lyrical inspiration from things that were happening in the real world. Like look at the track 1000 Eyes, like it's almost prophetic, like when you read about it, it's talking about how fucking intimacy and privacy is going to be further and further a luxury as time goes on. And that was written in like 95 or earlier. So like, and look at the stage we're in now, where like society is in a place where fucking
God is watching what you do.
It's like really is Big Brother. I mean, like obviously, like Orwell was writing and Huxley were writing about the shit, like almost a century ago. But it's just interesting to see that he had his mind obviously tuned to things outside the realms of fucking having sex with dead bodies and, and zombies eating you alive. So, but like I think what I really like about Symbolic as an album is the music's so much more mature as well. I feel like this is Death kind of at their peak. Like a lot of my friends think that Sound of Perseverance is their best album. And I love all their albums. I think I have a hard time picking which one is the best one, because really I've got certain amounts of love for each album for different reasons. But I feel like Symbolic is like the perfect amalgamation of like, and it's even when you look at the guitar work on the album, there's so many different sort of techniques and playing styles on there. You've got the palm mute sections, you've got the tremolo, you've got a lot of harmonics, a lot of diminished and dissonant riffs. It's just a really good amalgamation, and there's even a lot of silence on the album as well. Like they're one of the first death metal bands to have like, it's one of the, you hear it in Zero Tolerance, you can hear it in Misanthrope, where there's parts where there's even silence in the song that allows the riff to kind of grow and fester, which I think is really cool, and not something a lot of death metal bands were doing. There was a big facet of death metal which was all about just making it more extreme as time went on. Kind of branched off like that. Death were kind of along the same vein as Atheist and Cynic, and like they were wanting to create something that was a bit more musical. Whereas like you had other bands like say Suffocation, and that were just all about taking it to about as extreme and sort of guttural as you can take it. So it was great. It's a fantastic album. It's a
sick album. I remember like, I think Shem found this out, that they were directly influenced by Atheist, and that they were recording, I think it was Human, so they were recording Human, one of their albums, but before they recorded, they heard Atheist recording one of their albums. They were rehearsing in like the same area, I think.
Yeah.
And they heard them playing, and like Chuck was like, that's fucking cool. So they were like, they was in like immediately influenced by them, like.
Oh shit! I had no idea. That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah. I'm probably like completely miscommunicating what I heard, but I know there is some shit that happened, and I believe that's kind of the gist of it. But I love Atheist, and I love Death. I'm probably one of those fans that a lot of people would want to gatekeep, because I don't know every album. Like, I know what they're called, but I'm not like, I can't name you track 3 of Leprosy. I can't tell you what happens 2 minutes in, but I can tell you that they're one of the best death metal bands that's ever happened.
I think one of the best metal bands.
I think they are one of the best metal bands. Like, this is definitely, they're one of my top bands ever, and like I'm so influenced by their music.
Yeah.
And like how I write music, how I enjoy music. They're just like, they've influenced, like, I don't know many bands, any bands really that don't, like, if you like music, it's hard not to like Death.
Yeah.
Because they're just so good. Like, it's hard to, I don't know anyone who's like, Death suck,
Yeah. And they've got something for everyone, I think, that's into heavy music. And I think that's perfectly evident in the Symbolic album. Because you've got tracks that are groovy, you've got tracks that are you've got tracks that are fast, you've got tracks that are a bit more emotive. They've got all the components of what it is that makes heavy music good, in my opinion.
And there's emotion behind it as well. Like, they're not closed off. I mean, Chuck's not closed off. He's not like trying to hide how he really feels. He's not hiding behind like zombies and fucking dead bodies and shit. But like, I mean, there's anything completely wrong with that. It's just there's more to it than that. And it comes across in the music. It's
just easier to connect to it on a human level when like do you know what's funny about this shit? It's every time I'm about to make a deep point, I fuck up my words. But it does allow you to connect to it on a more human level when like the lyrics about shit that humans go through. Shem's dying, is he? He's gone.
He's actually in tears. I really hope that like, I don't know, I feel like you must get really anxious before important days like weddings and things.
Oh, don't even get me fucking started about weddings. It's I went to a laughing fit once. I've definitely told the story before, but like the guy some fucking guy burped super loud, and like me, my brother, and my cousin were just there, just fucking, and I was super anxious, man. You know that laughter you get when you think I need to stop because this is going to cause a scene, and that like just exacerbates it.
I feel like when you get married, you should have like a choir of frogs. You should have loads of frogs that are like constantly croaking. So like if someone burps, you won't be able to tell.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point.
Get Froggle to play.
That'd be cool. Do you reckon they could do a wedding march, like a Doom sludgy version of that?
Like a frog version.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'll run it by Amy, see what she says.
I'm sure she'll be cool with it. Dream wedding.
Oh man, but I could honestly go on and on about death, but one of the things I kind of wanted to say was it's interesting when you look at the sort of the wide appeal they have in the metal scene, and because each album is basically different band members. There's very few people that performed on more than one Death album. You know, I think Gene Hoglan performed on 2, Steve DiGiorgio performed on a couple. He was actually meant to perform on Symbolic as well, but I think he had his first child, so he had to go and look after that. But when you look at the people that have been involved in the 7 studio albums, like it's like a veritable who's who of the extreme metal scene. You've got like I was saying, Andy LaRocque from King Diamond. You've got Sean Reinhardt, the guys from Cynic, Paul Masvidal. You've got what's the name? Chris Reifert from Autopsy. He was the drummer on the first album, Scream Bloody Gore, and the Autopsy went on to become a legendary band in their own sense. Like if you look at like the snowball effect and the splintering of all the members and the bands that came as a result of like this band, it's actually like staggering. It's a bit like Napalm Death here, because Napalm Death had a similar like revolving door kind of situation with the band members. You know, Bill Steer, an early Napalm Death member, and you know Lee Dorian went on to do Cathedral. Like it's just crazy how just one band.
Cathedral.
Did I say Cathedral?
You made it sound like a Pokemon.
Do you know what? In my head I was thinking, I'm not actually too sure if I mispronounced that or not. No, but fuck it, I know it's Cathedral, but...
I've never heard Shem make that sound before. That's amazing. Oh, that's so good.
Oh, it's funny. Do you know what? I blame it on this weird early stage tinnitus that I've got going on at the moment.
Oh, really?
I don't know what the fuck it is. I'm going to get an appointment, but like... This is why my voice has been so booming last week, because I'm struggling to hear my own voice. So it's a bit like those when you've got deaf people trying to speak. That's how I imagine how I sound.
I hate it when you can only hear your voice inside your head. You feel like you're underwater. That's
how it means.
You've got a blockage or something. Maybe you need to get your ears drained or.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm going to get an appointment. I'm not in any pain or anything, but it's.
Try dropping some olive oil in there.
Yeah, my mum's got some of those hop eye candles.
I've heard candles and drainage can go wrong.
Yeah.
And you can damage your hearing. But I've heard that if you loosen it up with some oil, like a drop every day. Dr. Nina's here. Your YouTube doctor's here. I've got my doctor at the University of no, I'm not going to make a dirty joke. But anyway. Yeah, no, like when I got my ears, because I had to get custom plugs made, and you've got to have empty ears for it. If you've got wax, it ruins it. So I had to put oil in my ear every day for 10 days. If you put one drop in at the end, I could hear everything. It was amazing.
I've heard that when you get them syringed, it's it's like just being born again. Like it's just you can hear things like so clearly.
I didn't even get them syringed, but I would have had to. Like you have to loosen them to get them syringed. You have to do the olive oil thing anyway. So you may like it's worth trying or doing some reading about it, and hopefully you can hear again.
Yeah, that'll be all right. But the good thing is I can still like because when I first had it, it was like really like booming and had that underwater thing, and I couldn't like discern even when I was trying to listen to music. Like it was all very sort of sludgy, but now weirdly enough, I've kind of, I don't know if it's just my brain has found a way to train the part that's ringing just to be at the back of my head, and I can still hear most other things all right.
I heard that like when you have tinnitus, what you hear is the last time you'll ever hear that frequency, because you losing that frequency forever, because it's quite often very high pitched or like really low. I get really low tinnitus after a gig. You hear that like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have that low level hum. And then if it's like a death metal gig with like lots of high guitars, you can hear the like really high pitched one.
Oh man, that first time you go to a loud gig and your ears are ringing for like a fucking day, that is a unique feeling.
You're just like, wow, I'm a real music fan now. What's my hearing?
Yeah, fucked up my hearing, yeah.
Woo! I'm in the club.
Legit.
Oh, I remember I was a kid and like a composer came around my house and he had such bad tinnitus he started screaming.
Oh.
He was
what,
like
just randomly, or was that prompt?
He was a classical composer, and he was just like, ah! He just like cried out. It was so strange. Yeah. He was like, wear earplugs, kids. And I was like, okay.
I can imagine that would be such a great TED talk. The composer walks on stage, screams for about 10 minutes, just says, wear earplugs, kids.
yeah, that's that could work.
But back to the topic of question, Death Symbolic. It's I could just go on and on, but like it's one of those all-time classic albums to me, and I think it's a great representation of. I think it's the best album for a beginner fan to listen to.
Yeah.
I would say listen to Symbolic first because it's got some song structures in there that are quite accessible. I think to someone who maybe isn't so well versed in the more extreme side of the metal spectrum.
The production is very good as well. And there was a remaster. I don't know if I listened to the remaster. I think I listened to both, but the production is just brilliant.
Yeah, most of the albums, if not all of them, were done at Morrisound, which was just like the death metal place to. If you wanted a death metal album, you'd get it done at Morrisound. Like the early Gorguts albums were recorded there.
Yeah.
And stuff. And Gorguts, one other great band. They should review them at some point.
Gorguts are amazing.
But
I think sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't know what I was going to say. I was just going to say, yeah, well, fucking, just love it.
I think it's quite bold that they started the album with their title track. So,
yeah, that doesn't happen too often, does it?
Shem was like, I might not edit it. Please edit this out.
I'll leave that in.
Oh, god damn it. Title track.
Yeah.
I think it's bold to start with Symbolic.
Yeah, you don't get that too often, do you?
You don't. No. I think quite often a band will pick like the middle track or the last, or like something later on in the album. So like often people will get to it and be like, this must be the best track in the album. I think maybe that's a more modern like marketing thing. I don't know if it was different, like 30 years ago when.
Yeah.
Oh my god, 30 years ago when this was recorded.
Yeah, that's crazy to think. Actually, it's been that long.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I remember. I think it was. I can't remember which. The news site it was, but one of them, it was like albums that turned like 15 this year. This was like a few years back, and it was like Mastodon Leviathan. I was like, 15. I was like, fuck off.
I remember when that came out.
I mean, yeah.
Damn it, that's so horrifying.
15 years.
You know what really gave me like a weird feeling was Alan Averill joined Primordial the year I was born.
Christ.
He joined in 91 when he was 16, and he's now 43.
Yeah.
Well, he was 43 when the Wikipedia article was written, but like, there's a guy on his birthday that just changes the article.
God, that's mad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
But I think that more or less covers it for me for Death, unless there's anything else burning you want to talk about.
I think I've covered it. I think this is a 10 out of 10 album for me. I'm not going to bother like pretending it's not.
Oh, easily. Yeah. And like, to be honest, like, I would just say if anybody's not listened to Symbolic then, or Death's discography, you're doing yourself a massive, massive disservice.
Yeah.
Because they're such a cornerstone of the extreme metal kind of realm. And it's funny because like, and to go back to what we were saying about the UK bands and how they how so many like classic bands came from this small island. It's funny how when you look at bands like say Venom, like it's funny how Venom was such a big influence to so many bands, and they kind of almost single-handedly spun it off, sort of death and black metal. And it's like, I'm not even the biggest Venom fan, to be honest, but I could jam some of the music. But it's just crazy how something that has such humble beginnings can have such a snowball effect and create something that's like I think we live in an age now where I think like the subgenres have just become a bit ridiculous. But it's I think death kind of just reminds me of a simpler time when just like heavy music was heavy music. Yeah, like pirate metal or wizard metal or
zombie metal, gorilla metal. I like frog metal. That's cool.
Frog metal's cool. I can live with that. Yeah.
Oh, that's yeah.
I guess a pass. But no, yeah. But I echo what you said. I mean, this is like a classic album. I mean, it's in the upper echelon of albums I've ever listened to in the history of music.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean that's Death. Like, if anyone actually who listens to this goes and listens to Death for the first time, we would love to know how you found it. Because it'd be really interesting to get that perspective. I am interested to meet someone who doesn't like Death as well. I would like to know why or how someone feels, or if it's not their cup of tea. Like I've not really met anyone that's like.
No, there's on some videos I watch, I've seen comments from a guy whose username is Morbid Angel is better than Death. So I mean, I don't know if he doesn't like Death, but he at least thinks that Morbid Angel are better than Death.
Ooh, wow.
I mean, I like Morbid Angel, so I'm not going to slam them. I mean, apart from Illid.
Divinum Satana.
Yeah.
That's the only Morbid Angel I've ever listened to, because
the worst entry point in musical history.
They really fucked themselves on that one. There.
You couldn't pick a shitter album from any band in existence to.
And I saw them play it live, and I was like, I'm out. I can't. I'm never listening to these guys again. I looked at David Vincent Neil. What's his name?
David Vincent.
Evil Dave.
Evil Dave.
Evil Dave.
Dave Vince Neil. I looked at him and I was like, this guy looks like someone's drawn him. His hair looks like it's been like just glued on. It's just, I feel like he's gonna do like a Giuliani. It's gonna melt onto his face. When I can't take him seriously, man. But yeah, maybe one day I'll get it.
I'm gonna play you Altars of Madness.
Okay.
And then you can see that they have done some good albums, some very good
sure
albums.
They're an amazing band.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I've said before, you can hear, like, if you're a Gojira fan, like, listen to Morbid Angel, because there we go.
I just got like this.
I was like, there's Shem stripping again.
Since you're in the bathroom.
But like, if you're a Gojira fan, like, fucking listen to Morbid Angel. Like, it's because like you can.
Sorry.
Because he's lost it.
Was it the Gojira? Was it the bathroom?
What's your favourite Morbid Angel album, Shem?
Man, that's hard. Yeah, I don't know. I think I prefer Evil Dave, so I like the classics.
Yeah.
But then I really like Gateways to Annihilation. I like see Tucker as well. Yeah. I don't know, all of them.
Yeah.
They're great.
What's your favourite album?
Yeah.
When you're cremated, you want your ashes to be pressed in every single one of them.
Yeah, I really don't know. I really like all of them, honestly. I just, they're kind of like, it's a bit like Opeth, right? Like sometimes you just go, oh, I want to listen to My Arms Rehearsed, and sometimes you want to listen to Sorceress. They're like different moods.
It's hard to, I feel like there's so much pressure on us to have one favourite thing. Like,
yeah, it's like...
Why is that?
Yeah, it's weird. It's like, because if somebody had to come to me and say, I'll pick like your 5 favourite bands, or the worst one, if you had to try and pick your 10 favourite songs, that's literally fucking impossible.
Yeah.
Like, I just couldn't do it. I can't fathom having to, because every time I'm in a different mood, I'm in the mood for listening to something that reflects that. Mm-hmm. So like, like a fucking, so it's just an impossible task.
It's like putting your iPod on shuffle, and like there are days where you just don't want to listen to half your music.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I have days like that.
But one interesting thing I just want to quickly say about Morbid Angel is all their albums are in alphabetical order. So they deliberately title their albums in the alphabet. So the first album's Altars of Madness, then it's Blessed is the Sick, then Covenant of Domination.
Are they going to go all the way to Z?
Well, they're on K at the moment.
Wow, what happens after Z? They're going to do numbers.
yeah. The Cyrillic alphabet. I don't know.
That'd be really impressive actually if they could do that.
But I think we should segue into the next review on the list.
That'll be Primordial's Exile Amongst the Ruins, released in 2018.
What's your kind of experience with Primordial prior to this album?
Prior to Primordial, I've always liked Primordial. I've always thought they were a really good band. I thought Alan Averill was I like how outspoken he is. I like how he's kind of like a little bit miserable and grumpy. He's like, I once interviewed Ailstorm, and we were talking about bald men, and they were like they said their favourite bald person is Alan Averill.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
And I think that's a really good take. I think him and Patrick Stewart are among my favourite bald people.
Yeah.
And I like the music. It's this like kind of energy that they've got, this kind of driving energy, and they're like, I like that they talk about their identity and their Irishness, but it's not like everything they do at the same time. No. And I was reading an interview, and then Alan's like, specifically about Exile Amongst the Ruins, because a lot of the lyrics I thought were about like Irish independence and like politics and things, but he does say that it's not just about Ireland.
Yeah.
Like that's not the whole point of the band, and he talks about how he's kind of making a point about the West in general, which I think is like really cool that he's doing that. He's not just focusing on one little thing. He's looking at the big picture.
Did you watch that video Metal Blade done, where he goes through the lyrical meaning behind each track on the album?
I did not! I wish I knew that was there, because I went through all the things, like, I googled all the, like, cool Irish words.
Yeah, I took the easy way out. I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to watch this. But no, yeah, it's funny you mentioned the West, because one of the tracks, I think it's Upon Spiritual Deathbed, which is actually my favourite track on the album.
No way.
Because it reminds me of another Primordial song, which is actually not only my favourite Primordial song, one of my favourite songs of all time.
Damn.
The Coffin Ships.
It's a really good song. They're catchy numbers.
Oh, it's fucking good. And the thing is, you can tell in that track, I'll talk about Spiritual Deathbed in a second, but what I love about the Coffin Ships is because that is about Irish history.
Yeah.
It's about things like the potato famine and stuff, and you can feel like the ancestral rage and melancholy and sorrow come through in that song. And it's just the composition and the guitar leads are unreal. But this track, Upon the Spiritual Deathbed, he says it's to do with like how the West, I think his exact words were, the West is spiritually bankrupt.
Yeah, I really like how, so the thing I didn't need to Google, which is always like a bonus when I feel that way about an album, is like he starts with To Hell or the Hangman. And does he? He does. I'm pretty sure he does. Now I have that horrible doubt you get when you say something with utter certainty. You're like, what if I'm wrong?
You just know some guy's going to be like, well, actually,
you're wrong. Oh, she got it wrong. The girl in the death shirt, she's just
stupid female metalheads, they don't know anything.
She's just here for the guys. Anyway.
Just likes metal for the dick.
That's all I'm here for.
Track 1 is Nail Their Tongues.
That's it. I knew I was wrong. I was so certain I had to be wrong. Nail the Tongues. I was like, wait, this isn't a but. So that track is about Martin Luther.
Yes.
Who he nails the 95 proclamations, I think they're called, to the church door in Wittenberg, which apparently might not have happened. But anyway, he started Lutheranism and the whole schism between Catholic and Protestant and like the Reformation. And I think that's really cool because Ireland is historically very much affected by that whole thing. Yeah. And I really like that he wrote a song about that where he's like he's looking at the root of the history of that, and like that was such a momentous occasion. Yeah. And it's a really catchy song as well. It's
that's a great song. It's one of the few tracks as well that has some sort of black metal elements, because the interesting thing about Primordial is when you listen to their earlier stuff, they're kind of like a black metal band with some doom folk influences, but I feel like when The Gathering Wilderness came out, that's where they kind of made a transition into being more the doom band with some black metal influences.
That's when Alan got a bit miserable.
But it's what I like about that track is it's got a great kind of like a tremolo style riff towards the end, which is very like second wave black metal-y, and it's funny because that plays long after most of the other instrumentation has stopped. So just a cool way to end the track. I thought it was really good.
I like it when they do that. There was one track that I had a little bit of I didn't feel so good about. For God's sake, this doesn't respond to my touch. Sunken Lungs. That like the drums on that track are really strange. Like I feel like they're trying to do something with the drums. There's like this kind of shuddering thing they do through the whole song, where the drums kind of like do 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 do, but it's like almost out of time, and everything is almost about to fall apart. And I feel like maybe they're trying to kind of recreate like someone gasping for breath, or like something like about how like fragile breathing can be, or if it's just. When I was listening to it, I just felt uncomfortable. Like I felt like it was all going to fall apart.
Do you know what? That's really cool that you picked that up. Because like when I watched the video, he said that song was just about the ocean and being at sea.
Ah.
And he actually mentioned the drum pattern on it because he said it's a weird time signature.
Yeah, it is.
He said it was like an 11/8 or something, and it says, and that's the first thing I kind of picked up when I heard it. I was like, oh, these drums sound, they're different. I liked it because it kind of had a rolling sort of feel to it, which kind of.
I feel
was
like
reminiscent of like being on the ocean and the sea with the waves and stuff, like had a crashing sound to it.
Yeah.
And he said it's one of the tracks on the album that's relatively simple from a lyrical perspective. So it's just about being on the ocean and just the wild nature of the sea, which is, it's probably something a lot of Irish people kind of feel kind of connection to, being so close to the.
There's a lot of folklore about sea folk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was reading about like the Fomorians. They're like this like mythical race of like sea giants or something. I'm probably getting this wrong, please. Let me look, because it's really cool. And he talks about Baelor as well. One-eyed Baelor reigns king. Cool. And Baelor was the leader of the Fomorians, who are a group of malevolent supernatural beings. He's often described as a giant with a large eye that wreaks destruction when open. So that must be the track about all the eyes and stuff. That's really cool. And then like Roisin, I saw like they're in Dark Horse on the Wind. They're like talking about like their nation's soul. The flames leapt high, reached the sky till they seared a nation's soul in the ashes of our broken dreams. We've lost sight of our goal. Oh, then rise, 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 dark horse on the wind, and help our hearts seek Roisin, our soul again to find. And apparently, it's a common. Roisin is an Irish translation of the nationalistic poem Dark Rosaleen, which is a personification of Ireland. So like, I really like how they're dropping stuff like that in there, but like quite casually. They're not like having to being too I don't know, not too obvious. It's not like that, but then they're like just expressing themselves, and you have to go find the meaning, which I really like stuff like that.
Well, it's very authentic, isn't it? Because that's their heritage, and like one of the things I find about Primordial is like they sound very Irish.
They do,
and it's like and they are one of the earliest Irish metal bands. Of like obviously you got Thin Lizzy, you can argue a proto metal, But Primordial are like one of the few, especially in like the more extreme or diversified subgenres of metal, they're one of the first prominent bands of that. And I feel like they've done a lot for the Irish scene because it's because you could listen to, there's a lot of music you could listen to, whether it be black, death metal, doom, and you can't discern where it comes from because the influence might be from somewhere where the original artist wasn't from. But like Primordial, it's like it just sounds so Celtic.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's to do with like the song structure or just the sincerity. I mean, even Alan's voice as well sounds.
Alan's voice does sound very Celtic.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got this like richness that only that kind of voice can have.
Yeah.
And I think that's really unique, and it's really nice to hear metal like that that's written in this way. It's like so heavy in between genres in like a really cool way. Yeah.
And that's why, going on from that point, that's why I really like what he's done with his vocal style. Because at first he was more doing the traditional sort of black metal screeching, high-pitched stuff, and he kind of, I think, realised that his actual voice was a lot more appealing than the stuff that every other artist is doing.
Yeah.
And like, I think actually this album probably features one of his stronger vocal performances.
Yeah.
Because I know he's had a bit of vocal burnout in the past, but I think whatever he's done, he's got it back on form on this album, and like, it's got quite a good range. Like he's hitting like a lot of higher notes, and is even doing a bit more. He's incorporated some more of the harsh vocals again on some of the tracks, like Nailed in the first track. I can't remember.
Was it called Nail Their Tongues? What is it called?
Nail Their Tongues.
It's Nail Their Tongues.
Yeah.
I thought there's a band called Nail Their Tongues. I know there isn't. It's like there's a band like
Gnaw Their Tongues.
Gnaw Their Tongues.
Gnaw Their Tongues. Yeah, that crazy experimental Dutch band.
Yeah.
But so Nailed Their Tongues. That was that's just got such a good vocal performance on it, I reckon. And I reckon that's always been an important part of Primordial's music, because he does a very good job of orating his lyrics. Like, it's very powerful, and it's like very poetic as well, I feel, because the lyrics are very good. And like you said, they cover a lot of topics. Like, it's not just about Irish mythology or Irish folklore and history. He covers throughout all the albums they've done, they cover quite a wide gamut of historical topics.
Yeah, definitely.
And even the slightly more introspective tracks, like I think one of the tracks on this album, Stolen Years, which is a really good kind of sombre, melancholic track. And when I was watching the video of him talking about the lyrical being, he says it's just about time on the road as a band.
I thought that was about touring. So it was like wake up at 5 a.m. and I'm just like, that feels like a tour thing.
Yeah, and he says that's literally what it's about. It's just about he says you go through so much grind as a touring band, especially a band in their position that have been going since the late '80s. But there's always a payoff at the end of the day, whether it be the gig or connecting with people on a level that you can only really do through music, really, and the arts, which is what is slowly being taken away from our society currently. But I won't get into that too much. But
Avril on the Damnation podcast was talking about how if he found out there'd never be a gig again, he just wouldn't he'd just stop Primordial. He wouldn't release any more music because that's why he said that I believe that. He does it for the touring, for the shows. That's like the main part of the band for him, but it's also not their full-time project. Like he said that they all they have it as on something on the side, and that's something they can go back to, and they have times where they don't do it for a while and they don't rehearse for like a few months, and then they come back to the band. I think that's a really healthy approach.
I think that's probably the only way to keep a band going so long, is doing it through 100%. That way, right? Because you couldn't have the same drive if you were. And let's be realistic, there's no fucking money in the metal scene.
He says the same thing. Yeah, there isn't. Not unless you have an incredible manager who does loads of publishing deals for you and things like that. Yeah. That's
why I've got respect for people like Eric Rutan, who's the guitarist for Morbid Angel. He was guitarist for Morbid Angel and Hate Eternal, and I think he's now a permanent guitarist for Cannibal Corpse. But he just realised that to make money in the scene while still being involved in the scene is just to produce albums and have your own studio. And he's produced a lot of major albums, and it's just I think it's a good way to make a living and still be connected in the scene. Much in the same way while we're doing stuff like this, because it's good to
Yeah, I mean, if you want to make money in music, don't be a musician. You can't do everything apart from the music bit. If you work in management or publishing or booking, and I think even in if you're a promoter, that's pretty hard as well, which is kind of what we want to do too. So. What to do? For
you guys, would you share that belief that that the main kind of goal for a band is to perform big live shows, or would you say the recording the music is the thing that's more important?
I think it's different for each member of the band. For me, I make music because I want to preserve a part of my culture and heritage, and I also want to create something that people who are in my very specific situation can relate to, which are very few people. So I'm not doing this to get big and famous. I'm just kind of doing it for my own mental health and well-being, and because for some reason I feel I just feel an incredible urgency to just do it, to just make something like that, and I feel I would feel fulfilled if I did that. I think for the other members of the band, that's definitely not their priority, because why would it be? I wouldn't expect it to be. I think it would be amazing to play big shows as well. I think for me it'll be long. The lasting will be the. I can't speak. The thought of having that the thought of having put down music that is going to be there when I'm gone is going to last longer, the satisfaction, than playing a big show. But I definitely want to be successful and play big shows too.
Okay. I'd say there's probably some similarities between you and maybe Alan and Primordial in that aspect, because there's aspects of your culture that have been tried to be eradicated by other forces.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons I like Primordial, and I think I like how Alan reaches to the past to express that, so going back in history, because I feel that's more powerful and more relatable to a large number of people. I feel it's easier to get your point across, and it also piques interest for people to go and go down those roads and paths and discover it for themselves and see how history is unfolded, because I don't know a huge amount about the Troubles in Ireland. And I think he does it in a way which is going to make you more open to learning about it. As opposed to just doing the fucking Sabaton and just reading the Wikipedia article and his lyrics, that wouldn't be as interesting. No offense, Sabaton.
Shots
fired. Kind of.
I might have to tell you a story afterwards. That's an NSFW about Sabaton.
Oh my.
But no, it's no, I think you're right. And it's funny because on one of the tracks, he was talking about lyrically, it's kind of inspired by this notion that there's certain facets of the West or modern society that are looking to erase history and you could call it whatever you want. You could refer to it as woke culture, or but there's some people that think that the best way to eradicate modern problems in society, whether they be no matter what sort of category or branch they fall under, is to eradicate as much history as possible. And it's a bit of a touchy subject.
I think it depends on the context, right?
Yeah. Because it's because he was mentioning the whole thing about statues being torn down, and he said it made a good point. I thought it was a good point. He says sometimes statues can serve as a warning to people. Like you may not agree of who that person was that was immortalized in the statue, but this still doesn't change the fact that history is history, and what's happened has happened. I think there's a difference between recognizing it and celebrating it.
I think it depends on how they're presented, because I think a lot of those statues, I partly agree with him. I think personally I prefer the statues not being there, because you would walk past them and think that's an important person. The plaque isn't going to say this guy's a slave trader. It's going to say this guy's great. He had loads of businesses and traded sugar. La la la. And I think as a kid, you're walking in through the town, you see this guy shining in the sun above you. You're like, wow, that's pretty cool. This guy must be important. Wow, what's my voice doing? Yeah. This guy must be important. But I think I like the idea of maybe having a red plaque. You know how you have blue plaques in London? Maybe you can have a red plaque that's this guy was a slave owner and he killed X amount of people, da da da. And he was put here as you're part of this imperialist idealism of glorifying these horrible murderers throughout history. Yeah. That could be a thing. But I think, some statues, a part of the tearing down of a statue is also part of its history. Like the Saddam statue in Iraq.
Yeah, good
when
point.
that was pulled down, that was a huge moment in the history of the Iraqi people and of war in the West, and I'm cool with that, I think.
Sorry to massively ruin the tone of that conversation, but have you seen the meme video? It's that meme where the fucking kid goes, "What are those?" to people's shoes. Have you seen that?
No.
Have you not seen it? Oh fuck! But basically, there's a video of Saddam Hussein's statue getting pulled down, and because obviously his hands in the air, so it's "What are those?" as it falls down. I'll show you afterwards.
That's such a Middle Eastern. I do this when I'm trying to make a point. When I'm I just start doing the the Middle Eastern Queen's wave.
It's a very Italian thing as well, the gesticulation, isn't it?
We
work with enough Italians to say that it's a very...
I think poetic languages really, you can really emphasise them with I don't like the point. The point is I don't like this. It's something my father does, is that... But I think
I like pointing in general, but randomly.
I think this kind of, the underpoint, it's like cricket, right? The underpoint is cool. I think that's less aggressive, but this... If you're garling someone on stage, that's cool. This is kind of you're fucked.
You say garling someone on stage.
This is the garl point. I'm scared of making fun of Garl in case he kidnaps me.
I don't think yours is type.
Oh god. Oh no. Anyway. Moving on.
If I was on stage, I always wanted to. I like that. I think that's quite powerful.
Look at
motherfucker.
I'm a singer now.
But I don't know, just that or a classic fucking throat slash. That's a good one.
That's pretty good if you're screaming and you do the throat slash. I think if I did that, it wouldn't work.
I like it. Alan does it on stage.
Does he?
He does the whole. That was quite cool. He's got some quite good mannerisms and metal gesticulation going on in this live show.
I want to work in some more. I want to be a little bit more dynamic occasionally. I do the old point. I thought about cupping people's faces.
I thought you were going to say something else there.
Just walking up to people, just cupping them in the face. I'm glad that you can't see the gesticulations I'm doing on Spotify right now, because they're horrifying. But I'm even cupping someone. Someone did cup my face once. I was seeing High on Fire, and Matt, I think, might have recognised myself. He, at the end of the show, tousled my hair and then cupped my face. Oh. And it was very strange.
That's nice.
You're worried.
No, I think it's quite cute.
It was nice, but very confusing, because it was he's shaking everyone's hand and then you get your face cupped. But I kind of like the idea of just randomly fucking with people, halfway through a song, just reaching out and
There's this amazing story. I'm just retelling it. It's from an old Metal Injection video. I was talking last week about the band The Red Chord.
Yeah.
An early deathcore band, and the singer guy was saying that what he used to do, he used to love fucking with people. Excuse me. And what he said was what he used to do was go on stage and start making like a fucking like motion of like a scarecrow going like this. Because that's what the old singer of Suicide Silence used to do.
Oh, I see.
And he said like, oh, I said it looked like a pterodactyl. And he said like, oh, I've got this new stage move I want people in the crowd to start doing. And he called it the pan-pterodactyl.
Oh my god.
And then he said like, the more and more shows he would do, the more people would just be like dancing like that. And I'm just like, that's so fucking cool, man. That's like the best part of being a frontman, just fucking with people.
Oh, yeah, like we kind of do that when we're writing. We're like, how can we really confuse people? And like one of the first things we did was put a blast beat at the end of a Doom song.
Just one or a few?
We have just like a 2 minute, well, it might look a minute long blast beat. And when we played it live, people would be legitimately confused. It was like that was my favorite part of the set, would be watching people just be like, huh?
Yeah, what the fuck? Yeah.
What she was singing blues, like why? Yeah, that's just a fun thing.
That's
to
cool.
do. Yeah.
But you're looking to do more kind of like blast beat shit in there potentially.
Maybe we'll see what
I don't
happens.
know. We'll wait and see. Sorry.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert! No, it's not going to ruin anything for anyone. But,
No.
yeah.
Back to Exile Among the Ruins.
Oh, yes.
I think this is a very, very good Primordial album and an excellent addition to their frankly stellar discography.
100%.
If I was, to be honest, the last few albums, I wouldn't say I've been treading water, but they were a bit more standard Primordial. Whereas I feel like this is kind of like a touch above, similar to like The Gather and Wilderness, which is probably my favourite Primordial album. You know, it's just got a great blend of melodies, and just the guitar work is just fantastic in Primordial. I love the leads and the layering, and everything just sounds so good.
They produce it well.
Yeah, it's produced very, very well. But I think it's a fantastic album. I really enjoyed it.
I give it a 7.
I'd give it more. I'd give it about maybe an 8.5.
I think 8. Oh, okay, now I'm bad. I like it. I'm sorry, but after Death, after Symbolic, how could I give this? Like, it doesn't feel like an 8 to Symbolic. It feels like a 7 to Symbolic, but I guess it's an 8 compared to like a normal album. I don't know.
So this is where like rating becomes so tricky, isn't it? Because like Symbolic, a lot of Death's discography to me is like head and shoulders above a lot of other shit I've ever listened to.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I suppose in comparison to that, you're probably more likely to give an album a less favourable mark. But like, I'm a big Primordial fan though, so like I hold them very, very high regard as a band. So it's very easy for me to give this album a high rating.
I think they're one of the best bands like in, I guess the UK you would call it. I don't know if they're like not. How does it work? Like Northern Ireland is UK, but
yes.
Are they Irish or Northern Irish?
They're from Dublin Island. Well, they're based in Dublin Island, which is the Republic of Ireland.
So they're not. So they would not consider themselves part of the UK.
No.
Okay, no. I'm really sorry if I offended anyone there. I'm learning. But yeah, so I think they're one of the best bands in this
part of the world.
Archipelago.
That's good.
Yeah. It's an archipelago, right? I think they're really good. And they play a lot of shows in the UK, so I feel like that's hopefully fair to say. I'm really sorry if it's not. I take it back if it isn't.
Yeah, I'd say them along with another Irish band I really love is Morning Beloved.
Yeah.
And me and Shem were talking about them a little bit on the other weeks off the air, but they're super, super good. It's like Primordial, but like more Death Doom orientated. And like a bit more miserable and southern, if you can picture that. But like they've got some. I'll link you an album. It's an album called The Murderous or A Murderous Circus. It's super fucking good. Like it's really, really such a great like doom record.
That's a really difficult album name to say.
Yeah, A Murderous Circus.
You say it like 5 times really fast. I wonder if it works. Yeah, I think the name of this album is really good as well. Exile Amongst the Ruins. I think that like perfectly sums up Primordial's music in a way, or like how I feel about it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's but yeah, I mean like Alan's always had such a good way with words and lyrics and stuff. Like you know they all have meaning. There's no wasted, you know, there's no throwaway lyrics or tracks ever.
Yeah, isn't Wasted Years an Iron Maiden song? Stolen Years, Wasted Years.
Stolen Years. It's on this album.
Yeah, but isn't there an Iron Maiden song like Wasted Years?
We can ask Matt if you want.
We can ask ask computer. Please Google it.
Yeah, there is an Iron Maiden song called Wasted Years.
There we go. I can't believe I knew that.
But that's good knowledge for someone that doesn't listen to
Yeah.
Iron Maiden.
I've never listened to Maiden, I have no idea.
Yeah, for some reason, I can hear this. I don't know how this song goes, but I can hear the chorus of Wasted Years in my head throughout the entirety of this conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was wondering if that was a thing. But I think that's Primordial.
Yeah, I think that's all I want to say on the subject. But
Okay. You okay? Do you have any comments on Primordial, Shem? No?
do you like Primordial?
I feel okay.
Come on. No one's never performing with Primordial confirmed here.
No, okay. I've just never really, to be honest, I'd never even heard of them until I met Nina.
Really?
Literally
I
never
thought
heard
they
of
were really
them.
well known.
No, well they are. Like I've since discovered they're a huge band, but
Okay.
none of my friends ever listened to them. None of my friends ever went on about them. I never went to a show where they were supporting my headlining. I just somehow missed Primordial for so long.
Yeah.
That they're quite new for me, and I haven't really I like this album. I've listened to it; it's really good. But yeah, I think unfortunately I just kind of missed them for a large chunk of
Fair enough.
my musical history.
Yeah, I got into them a bit later. There's some bands that just... Did you ever get that with some bands just decide what to listen to for some reason?
Yeah.
And it's just
Morbid
like
Angel.
what's the one for me? There's a band, Intronaut. Have you ever heard of them?
I've heard of Intronaut, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like, look, I've had friends this in the past where you really dig them, but I'm just like, it's just the name, I just don't like it.
They're a road burn band, I feel.
I think they're like slightly proggy, techy.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I've never listened to their music, so I can tell you.
I think I've listened to them on Spotify and then not realised I've listened to them. I think they're one of those bands where I look at the Spotify on shuffle and I'm like, oh, it's that band! I've always wondered what they sound like and then forget about them. Do you ever have that?
I get them mixed up with Russian Circles all the time. To me, they're both just bands of guys with short hair and beards that make proggy kind of music with no singing.
Yeah.
Like, I just have a whole section.
Yeah, that's what I mean, like
bands, and they don't stand out.
Polyphia and Periphery, like,
Yeah.
I couldn't distinguish them, I've never listened to them.
I listened to Periphery because I liked Bulb, because I liked Misha Mansour, and then Bulb is just better.
Yeah.
I like Misha Mansour way more than Periphery, and he left anyway, so it doesn't matter. But he has loads of sports cars now, and it confuses me.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a very random segue. But shall we talk about Lingua Ignota and Agnus Dei? Yeah, how did you find this album?
Okay, so obviously this is very short, so there's not too much material to cover here. So what I was going to say was just talk a little bit about my experience with her as an artist. And I've listened to like Caligula a few times, and I just want to say I find the I'm not going to try and save that one. So I can't even. It's the worst. I can't even hear myself doing it. That's the worst part. So I can't even enjoy the hilarity of me fucking up my own words because I didn't even know I'd done it.
It's the way you just gave up halfway
Oh shit. But yeah, what a fucking intense album.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was thinking, because she's been collaborating, or done a few collaborations with Dylan Walker from Full of Hell.
Yeah.
An artist I really like, and it's I get excited by music that is a representation of a raw emotion.
Oh, this is definitely that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I listen to a band like, even say Full of Hell, like or a band like Napalm Death, like that is like almost a sonic representation of rage.
Yeah.
But like what, like Caligula. That album is, in my opinion, a sonic representation of just like utter fucking despair.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know, I can't relate to the lyrics because, but I know the themes are about, like sexual abuse and domestic abuse and stuff.
Yeah.
And I know she's referred to the songs as survivor anthems.
Yeah.
And I think, it's weird to say that the music excites me, but I just like hearing genuine emotion in music. Mm-hmm. Because so often in extreme metal you hear music which is very hard to connect to, because like what I was saying before about death and other bands in the death metal genre, or even the black metal genre, a lot of the time it's the lyrical content and stuff, it's very surface level. It's about something that is hard for a human to connect to, because it could be about Lord of the Rings, or like I said, zombies, or, bestiality. I'm sure if you're into bestiality, you can probably connect to some of the lyrics found in death metal.
Furries must love death metal. Yeah.
But no, like this is very, very fucking real.
Yeah.
And like there's so much of her essence that's been put onto this record, and through and she does everything, right? She's multi-instrumentalist, everything.
Yeah, she's incredibly talented. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was I just really, and I think that there's elements of that are on this EP. So obviously this is very short, and it feels like a bit of a teaser for the next record.
It does. It doesn't feel like a full Lingua Ignota. She doesn't lose control, I feel, on this record like she does in like Caligula and All Bitches Must Die. And, All Bitches Die, not Must Die. Yeah.
It's because there's a bit of it, because the second track, which is it Sexless, I think it's called?
I think so. It's a cover of The Cure. It's a cover of, I haven't written it down. It's like Sexless No Sex. It's a cover of
Saeidi.
Iron Lung.
Oh, okay.
It's an Iron Lung cover. Yeah.
But that's got some of the elements of Caligula that I thought was quite prominent. Like, it's got a bit more of that, because I know a lot of this album is kind of classically inspired, because I know she was actually classically trained.
She was, yeah. She went to a really prestigious university as well. Yeah. And like, she applied to PhDs.
Oh, sure.
And she was rejected because her music was too raw and aggressive.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
That's so fucking stupid.
I know, right? But I mean, she I feel like she has a very academic approach, which I really respect, because I also dropped out of academia, not in music, but I can feel her frustration, and I was also like not as accepted because I was very fringe in terms of what I was looking at. So like it's another reason why I really resonate with her and her music. I love it. So yeah. Anyway, as you were saying.
No, yeah, it's just it's a great little EP. Like I said, it serves as more of like a teaser for some of the things, but it's at the same time I feel like it's another string to the bow. Yeah. I haven't listened to. I've glanced through some of the earlier albums, but Caligula is the one that I'm most familiar with, and like this is the first time I've heard the more classical elements being present in the music. Like, it's obvious she's great at creating the soundscape of despair, which is, you know, a testament to her ability as a multi-instrumentalist. But it's great to kind of hear, like, especially in the last track, which is titled Agnus Dei, I believe. Which is Lab of God. And not to be confused with the Virginian groove thrash band.
Who's like the virginity?
But it's but that I feel like is quite a good sort of amalgamation of elements of classical music and kind of like the horrific soundscape that she normally. But horrific yet beautiful, it must be said, because there's a lot of beauty to be found in some of the tracks.
Yeah, that's like a Bach tune, and she's got like, you can hear the Bach. But there's this also like crackling distortion that gets loud and quiet, and you're in fear that's going to take over the music. Like, you feel this sense of ominous foreboding. And so listen to this incredibly beautiful music with these like vocals where she sounds like she's on the verge of sobbing. Like, the way she's singing, you can tell she's classically trained in all her music because of how when she goes into like her operatic voice. But in this, like, she intentionally bends how she sings this, like, in this opera style, and does it in such a way where you're like scared.
Yeah.
You don't know if she's going to scream or if she's going to weep, and it's like really terrifying for a lot of men to listen to. But also for women, it's like a very representative of how women feel a lot of the time, because like we're often. I mean, like, it's not something that's really explored in heavy music, like the experience of women in this way. Because usually it's just like, you fuck women, you fuck dead women, like, you're seeking women to fuck. You've been fucked by a woman. You're planning to be fucked by a woman. That's heavy metal. Like, this is like not only is she looking at like domestic violence, surviving it, she's also looking at like killing your rapist. You know, that's the kind of thing she writes about. And I don't know a single woman who hasn't had something happen to her, like either domestic abuse or sexual abuse, as someone who myself has gone through both of those things. It's just something that, like, every woman I know who's listened to Lingua Ignota has been like, that's how I feel. You know, and like, I've seen her live, and it's 100,000 times amplified live. Like, wow. I recommend anyone going, even if you don't like her music, go. That's how women feel. And secondly, it's fucking incredible. Like, she is a true performer, and she legitimately, I feel, did not care if she died while she was performing, because there were times where she literally could have. She wrapped the microphone cable around her neck, slung it over the scaffolding of the stage, and was like leaning on the edge of a teetering chair whilst holding onto it and singing and screaming into this microphone. And everyone was just standing there like, what the fuck? Like, she comes on and all she has is a keyboard, a Mac, and a chair, and she's got like all this like American Psycho plastic wrap around the stage, and she's just this like very slight woman who you can see like she just changes when she comes on. She's got this like true, like I don't know, like if anyone listening has like experiences when you go on stage and you just like you completely change as a person. You're not who you are like what you're performing, and she's doing that, and she comes into the crowd and like she doesn't like gently, like she's not like primly like excuse me, she comes into the crowd regardless of whether you're in front of her. She does not care. She just grabs her chair and she comes into the crowd, she plants her chair down and she stands on her chair in the middle of the crowd and is screaming and shrieking and singing and
Jesus Christ.
wailing and opera singing, and everyone is just standing around her in complete shock and awe, and that's the entire show.
Fuck.
It's one of the most incredible shows I've been. Like Grave Lines actually was supporting. Shem is wearing a Grave Lines hat for those listening and not in front of behind the camera because you can't see him. But yeah, like it was a Chaos Fury music show there.
Oh, what venue was that? Interesting.
Oh, it was where Owen played. Village Underground? I think it was the Village Underground. Is that what it's called? I believe so. It's in, oh my god, it's been so long. It's in Hoxton. It's like right by the station.
Yeah.
It's a good venue to have a Lingua Ignota show at in general. It's I think probably like 500, 1,000 people.
Oslo in Hackney.
Oslo, that's it, not the Village Underground. Sorry.
But that sounds, it's an interesting point, because I think we've had this discussion before about women in metal and how the female voice kind of is pigeonholed into like kind of two, well in my opinion it appears it's pigeonholed into either two areas in the metal scene. You can either be a pretty singer,
an operatic singer, or a blues singer.
Yeah. Or you could be the token harsh vocalist.
That's it. Yeah.
It's just like, and all that is, and no like
they're
nothing.
incredible.
Nothing against those people, but like it's just employing the same vocal techniques that a lot of the male vocalists do against a lot of fries, vocal distortion and stuff, which is cool. It's what I do.
All vocal techniques are shared between the sexes. There's no unique technique that one sex has access to.
Yeah.
You know, so like it's absurd. It's almost objectification. It's like, oh, women, they sound like Nightwish or they sound like Blues Pills, and like those are incredible bands of incredible vocalists, but that's just not true. There are men that sound like women, there are women that sound like men. The voice is not tethered to whether you've got a dick or a vagina.
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't work that way.
No.
There were castrati 100 years ago, but there are women who sound like castrati, and there are men who don't have their balls cut off that sound like castrati, so it doesn't matter. It's just not a sex or gender issue. Like, it's just stupid, and let's put it in the bin. We don't need to talk about that anymore. But yeah, Lingua Ignota definitely occupies like a new space that should have, honestly, like I'm surprised, maybe it did exist before, we don't know about it, but I'm surprised that it's taken this long for that to happen. Yeah,
and it's because she, I think, has done a lot for portraying a real, because all voices are real, but like portraying the voice of something that is true and very real to a lot of women in society.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it's some of the most extreme vocals I've ever heard. And
absolutely.
It makes a lot of men uncomfortable. And
I
could get why it would do that, because if you don't come from that place yourself, this would be something that would seem quite unsettling.
Yeah,
but it's something that excites me, because it's something I've always searched for in music. I mean, it seems a bit weird that I'm excited about songs about, but no, I'm not going to go down that road. But I'm excited. I get excited about extreme music and things that come from a very real place. That's why, like, one of the there's an album. It's not even a band; it's a project. It's called Stala. STALAAGH.
Okay.
It's like this blackened noise project, and all the vocals are real samples of screams from people from a mental institution.
Oh my
and it's the most unsettling sounding fucking album ever.
That is horrible.
It's called like Project Misanthropia.
I don't like that.
But, yeah, it's fucked up. but obviously that's a bit gimmicky. Because of course it's, that's someone saying, I want to create something that's really fucked up.
That's an idea that someone's had, whereas this is like someone's lived experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, precisely. It's really like I mean, this was recommended to me by women, and like I don't know many men that listen to Lingua Ignota who can listen to Lingua Ignota. Yeah. It means I always forget this. I think it means forgotten language or
it's an unknown language
because she's trying to express something that you can't express through words, and it's very true. Like once you hear her sing, you know exactly how she's feeling, and if you don't, then I think you have a very common reaction to men when they hear about abuse. like domestic abuse, which is like a sense of discomfort and wanting to get away from that. And I think that's part of the reason why this music hasn't existed before, because, you know, I mean, Kirsten Hayter, who wrote this music, who is Lingua Ignota, she's talking about 2 abusive relationships she had over 7 years, I believe, in the scene where she grew up with musicians. And when she came out about it, no one believed her, and she was basically ostracized. And this is incredibly common with women in the music scene. If they date a musician, people side with the musician, pretty much most of the time, unfortunately. And we're seeing that happen now, like with the Manson shit. There's like so many men defending him, and I'm sure he's gonna still get lots of money and slots and shows, whatever. And that's
it's like the old fucking crude adage, though, isn't it? Like, if you're a guy that sleeps with a lot of girls, you're a player. If you're a girl that sleeps with a lot of guys, you're a slut. So
yeah, but it's like she just had a relationship with these men, and this is the case with domestic abuse. Is like so much of the time women don't speak about it because this happens, and it's, you know, it's very. She started Lingua Ignota because she felt it was the only thing she could do to express herself. Like, I apologize if I'm misquoting, but yeah, it's like the connection with religion as well is like very interesting. Like she was taught by I think not nuns, but she had like a very Catholic liturgical like musical education, and she was always very interested in more like not the delicate music. She was interested in more like interesting ancient raw music, and she, you know, as you say, collaborated a lot with the Body and Full of Hell. She has Alexis Marshall from Daughters on this album reading the poem.
Oh shit! No way.
Yeah, way.
Oh, cool.
Which is Where You Walk by Hermann Hesse. It's really cool that she did that. It's really interesting. It's like I can read it if you like. It's not very long, but I don't know how to interpret it, because it's like, I don't know if it's from the eyes of like an abuser or of a stalker or of her. But he's saying, I know you walk, I walk so often, late along the streets, lower my gaze and hurry, full of dread. Suddenly, silently, you still might rise, and I would have to gaze on all your grief with my own eyes. When you demand your happiness, that's dead. I know you walk beyond me every night, with a coy footfall and a wretched dress, and walk for money, looking miserable. Your shoes gather God knows what ugly mess. The wind plays in your hair with lewd delight. You walk and find no home at all. I mean, like, for me, you walk and find no home at all is like very relatable. I feel like it's like very much a lot of women have felt, not a lot, but some people I'm sure have felt this walking along the street, hurrying, full of dread. Like, I've certainly felt this, and like, you know, feeling messy and not knowing like what's going to happen with your home. This like, it's very common if you're in like an abusive relationship where you don't know where you're going to be sleeping. You know, one weekend, one night, where you're going to be going, like, what's going to happen. A lot of the time people stay in these relationships because they don't know where they're going to live otherwise. And I think, you know, maybe it's really interesting how she's done this, and I love Daughters' music. I feel like there's a similar sense of rage. And like Handel's playing in the background. Oh, this is all happening. So it's like a really interesting juxtaposition. And I think she works really well with juxtaposition of like incredibly fragile music with intense emotion and like stuff suddenly breaking out, like you're walking on eggshells around her music.
That's such a good way of putting it, because that's literally how you feel, because you just feel like you're on the verge of like a full-on like someone just completely losing all semblance of like sanity and mental well-being.
100%.
Yeah, and it's funny because like it's crazy really, because like the poem, you say like people walking without that feeling of uncertainty about which home to go to. I mean, I can just imagine how bad that is, compounded with the fact that if you ever try to go public with it, you're not going to be believed anyway.
Right.
Or there's a good chance you're not going to be believed or taken seriously. So it's like, how fucking hopeless is that situation?
Yeah, I mean, like not being able to speak out is like such a huge part of like how abuse operates. It's like often operated on the premise that the person you're abusing, like, she has lyrics, like, you know, which are direct quotes of what abusers have said to her, like, who will love you if I don't, who will fuck you if I don't, like, stuff like that. And it's like it's so like sadly common, these sentences. And like, I think she embodies that sense of like insecurity and of having someone like rip away your identity. And it's interesting how a lot of good metal is about identity, whether it's about like your national identity, your personal identity, your sexual, your like how you're treated as a human. A lot of the time, like it's like, how big is the picture that we're looking at? It's like, you know, Primordial is about like is not about Ireland, it's like the entire West. And Lingua Ignota is about like, you know, women and the soul and sexuality and love and things like that. So it's
but it's funny in a sense because you could talk about, like I say, a grand topic, and that might appeal to say like a select few people. But if you're talking about something that's so introspective and concerned with you, but that actually ironically might appeal to more people because people find that there's elements of that in a lot of people's own struggles.
Yeah, it's like that Converge album with like Jane Doe, right? Yeah. Like with how a lot of people have that big breakup in their lives.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, you know, they're walking down the streets like almost not wanting to meet the next person they're going to love because they're going to hurt them. Yeah. And they're going to feel pain in that relationship. And, you know, and this is like another aspect of that is of like the pain from the relationship. I'm sure like whatever happened with Converge, it wasn't like this, but you know, this is another. It's like Shakespeare, you know, like in any Shakespearean play, you have all of the colours of the human condition, and that's why he was an amazing playwright. Is because he got to the very essence of humanity, and I feel like this is like an super distilled vodka version of that.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Have you, by any chance, listened to the Full of Hell album? Called Weeping Choir.
I think I've listened to some Full of Hell, and it's not been very accessible to me.
It's she's on the track on this. It's called the.
I think I might listen to that. Yeah.
I think it's the Armory of Obsidian Glass.
That's a really good
I was
name.
debating in my head. Do I say glass or glass? I was like, I say glass, of course. But it's But it's a really good track, and it just going back to a point you were talking about earlier with her vocal style. You know how when she's on like The Verge, it sounds like she's kind of got that warbling, but almost on the verge of screaming.
Yeah, she's like right on the edge.
Yeah. And there's like quite a choral effect she does in that track. It's a really good track. It's a bit more like sombre than a lot of the other tracks, which is like just full on rage and noise. But they've actually got a super group. So Dylan from Full of Hell, Kristen, and Lee Buford from The Body have got a super group called Sightless Pit that I've never listened to.
That's really cool. I've got to check them out.
Yeah, so I'll check it out. So I'll see what because I could only imagine how fucked up.
That's going to be terrifying.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Just like some Guantanamo Bay torture level music there.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty cool. I think next week there's an album I wanna already say I wanna cover, which is Black Sheep Wall.
Oh yeah, because I said the new album dropped.
The new album dropped. I think this weekend.
I didn't know it was out.
Yeah, I think it
dropped this Friday, just gone.
Yeah, it was 21st of February, I think. I'm it won't be 21st, but I'm really excited about that album. I think the last album has songs like I Want to Fucking Kill Myself on it. Yeah. So.
But that's the band that has the 34-minute track just called Metallica.
Yeah, that's so good. And like the cover is like cartoon characters.
Yeah. So the cover reminds me of that YouTube series. You ever watched Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared?
No.
It's like it's like a series of it starts off like really kid friendly, like a real Sesame Street sort of vibe, and it's these puppets that are quite cute. But it's there's about 5 or 6 episodes of it, but about halfway through you start to realise that there's something really sinister bubbling underneath, and it just descends into like sort of puppet gore and shit.
Wow.
And it's really fucking unsettling. It kind of reminds me a bit of Salad Fingers. Do you ever?
Yeah.
There's a similar vibe to that, except it starts off far more kid friendly, and then just divulges into something completely fucking diabolical.
It feels like Being John Malkovich, but gory.
I've never seen Being John Malkovich.
It's really good.
Wow.
It's a really good film. Very strange. Yeah. I think that's Lingua Ignota Agnus Dei.
I think so. I think that is us done for the week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to rate this. It's not an album. So.
No, I think, but I'll tell you what it has done. It has got me excited for what's coming next.
100%.
And I feel like that's the purpose of this. You know, it is. You know, it's a teaser, and I'm personally looking forward to what comes up next because I think that. I'm really happy that she's got picked up by profound lore and has got recognition in the scene and been embraced in the scene, because I think it's something that the scene needs, because it is, and like I wouldn't be remiss to say that it's a scene that could be largely misogynistic at times.
Oh yeah.
So it's good. That's a diplomatic way of putting it. So it's good to hear like a female voice represented in a different way.
100%.
And I think that, she does it in a way that I have not heard anybody else ever fucking do it.
Yeah.
And I am all for it. I think it's great. So.
Yeah, she said that she won't always sing about domestic violence. She's just going to sing about what's closest to her, what's truest to her at the time, which I really respect. I think it's cool that she's come out straight up and been like, I'm not going to be the one that's always just doing the same thing. Yeah. Because that wouldn't be like
true to her.
It wouldn't be true to her. It would be disingenuous, and I respect that. I think this is it's beautiful that she's done this. Thank you, Kirsten Hayter. You have definitely improved the lives of many women and maybe opened the eyes of some men. So yeah, thank you for watching. Not just Kirsten Hater, everyone, and thank you for listening. Feel free to like, subscribe, follow, download, everything, comment, let us know how you feel. If you hate me, if you love me, if you love or hate Floyd, if you love or hate Shem, if you want us to review anything, please do. We checked out White Ward, man who commented recently. Thank you for recommending them. They're really cool and jazzy, and we're going to listen to them more. So yeah, thank you for watching.
So yeah, until next time.
Yeah.